Okay, I'm going to show you an exercise, and we're going to synchronize our breath and drawing, and basically draw how you're breathing. It's a very simple exercise, but there's a complexity behind it that's really wonderful, and it quiets down busy thoughts, and it's a really useful thing to do if you've got a lot of strong emotion, if you're angry or sad or upset about something, and you just need to quiet down to focus on something. And it's also a good thing to do before bed. Okay, so you just start and you breathe in, you pause, and breathe out. Pause and breathe in. Pause, breathe out. Pause, breathe in. Pause, breathe out. Pause. Breathe out and pause. Breathe in and pause. Breathe out. Pause. Breathe in. Yeah. So it's an exercise you can do anytime. It's very, very simple, and yet it's something that really. What we're going to work today is a whole bunch of different textures. So there's very specific different textures here that can be used in all sorts of ways in different artworks. And I'll show this to you in color, but also in black and white. So if you're working on a black and white printer, then that's just fine too. But there are a lot of different textures that can be incorporated in all sorts of drawings. And so we'll go through some of the different ones, which is a nice thing to just quiet the brain down and concentrate. And we'll also introduce some different textures, and we'll specifically work on this one. But textures can be used to create a background pattern. You can also do them lighter and darker to different sides to create shading, so you can create a sense of a shape. So these are all different sorts of crosshatch textures. So you can just have a look at very closely what they are. Now, they're deceptively simple, but they're really useful in all sorts of fine art and just playing around, sort of doodling kind of practices. This is the one that we're working on today, and it looks really simple. It is just scribbling, but at the same time, there's a bit more to it. It also is incredibly satisfying to work on, especially if you've got a bold or a soft pencil, where you can press really hard. It's great if you're angry or frustrated, because you can really dive into it and really have fun with it. These are also other variations of the textures with different kinds of markers, with a medium point marker and with a fine point marker. So those are some of the things we'll play with today. And also, we're going to start, instead of working positively, which is building an image on the page by itself, we're going to work with negative space. So we're going to be filling in an image inside a shape. And that just is a different way to work and gives you a different creative beginning. And just you tend to come up with different sorts of things when you work in different ways. So that's what we're playing with today. And so I'm going to be showing you different ways of making these marks and different ways of filling in the fish. Okay, here I'm going to show you how to make what's called a scribble or chaos drawing. I rather like the name of chaos drawing. And let's say we want to fill in an area like that. And you're just working around, and you have to look at where the spaces are. And you want to double back, but you also want to fill in different places. So it looks like it's entirely and completely random, and in some ways it is, but you're also trying to cover the area with different sorts of marks. And any way that you do this differently makes different overall pattern, but it's important to be consistent with whatever you are doing so that it becomes a whole texture. Okay, we're getting pretty close. You can sort of see where there are spaces, but it's really quite wonderful when you're angry or frustrated. You can really press with a large soft pencil or a graphite pencil or a hunk of graphite. Those are really lovely to work with. Okay, now let's say I want to make this as a cylinder. Maybe it's a bottle or a tree, something that has dimension. So I want to make it dark on the two sides. So I will do a bit more of this on the two sides. Okay, and let's see if I can just put a boundary on this on the two sides. Now, if you look at that, I think you'll start seeing that there's a sense of curve to it, so that it goes away on the two sides and comes forwards in the middle, and that's because there's more contrast in the middle and the lines are closer together on the side, so there's less contrast. So that's one way to play with a chaos pattern. Let's see, that's used in here. So you can use it anywhere you like, but that's where I chose to use it. Okay, so now I'm going to do that on my fish, and I'll do a few variations of the fish just to play with that. Okay. Okay, so I think I want a boundary here. Okay, I'm going to do this as graphic and not trying to be realistic. So instead of having rounded gills, I'm going to have straight gills. Sort of the division between the head and the... okay, and a nice big round eye kind of defines it as a fish. Okay, good, okay. And what else do I want? That's good. And make that a thicker line. Yeah. Yes, I'm going to put some thicker lines in different places. Okay, so I'm going to do my chaos drawing just in here. And I'm going to have to be more controlled because I'm trying to work within some lines at this particular point. But I'm working black on a black copy, so I can go over the edge and it doesn't really show. You can also do your textures drawn on separate pieces of paper and cut them up and collage them together. But today we're just playing with the drawing. Okay, so that's part one of the fish. So that's the chaos. Okay, next I want to do some cross hatching. So I'm going to do some cross hatching here. And when you draw, you can try to draw very straight, very exact lines, or you can draw sort of looser, not so straight lines, not trying to get them to be straight, having a little bit of wiggle in them. So this time I'm not trying to do them really straight. Okay. Okay, and so that one, let's see. Okay, so some of the textures, I'll just go through some of the different textures that we can play with today. Many, many textures we can play with, but the ones we're going to play with today. Okay. We can do tweed, and tweed. Going to do a series of lines that are equally spaced. And angled lines. And this one I'm not going to try to do exactly. And as an exercise, you might find it interesting to do some work that's not exact and then some work that's more precise and exact. So this one, I want my lines to be not quite straight and not quite meeting perfectly. So it looks a bit more hand-drawn as opposed to a real graphic look. So lines are going 45-degree angles one way, 45 degrees the other, and they just go zigzag. Now, if I wanted to do this more precise, and you might find it interesting because you might just make discoveries about kinds of drawings that you can do. You might try both. Okay, so this time I'm going to slow down and I'm going to make it quite precise. And they have quite different characters, these two kinds of lines. So you can just draw straight into your fish, or you can just draw some examples. So you can see how this has quite a different character than the one above. I'm not being rigid about it, but I'm being a lot more precise in my lines. So you could do one version of the fish that's loose and imprecise and really looks very hand-drawn. And then you could do a second one that's quite graphic and precise and more sort of a design rather than a drawing. Or you can just play with whatever feels the most comfortable for you. So this is called Tweed. So on this one, I'm making the lines line up. Okay, so there's Tweed. Okay, you can also do stripes in groups. So let's see. So you can do 3 lines equally spaced, a larger space, and then 3 lines equally spaced. Okay, and then you can do ladder. So that's 2 lines close together, space, 2 lines close together, space, 2 lines close together. And then just filling in little crosshatch lines here. I'm going to do this one quite precise. You can also choose to do a sort of a loose version and a more precise version. And what I'm doing here is giving you a language, so different ways of making marks that you can use in any of your drawings. And if you don't want to do the fish, that's absolutely fine. You can create your own variations of what you want to use these techniques for. Okay, so those are quite precise. Now I'm going to do one that's not so precise. So you can see this has a different character than those two, and you can choose the kind of character you want for your drawings. Okay, so that's called ladder, tweed, stripes, and ladder. We can do grid. You may want to make your own samples page, and you can also do these in lots of different colors. Okay, I'm just looking back at the fish. You can see I've used tweed here, and the ladder, I put some there. I put some stripes there, and crosshatch here, different stripes on the fins. I've used some solids to have some contrast, and then here I'm going to show you this one as well. So they're all different. They're very simple to draw. I'm quite sure you'll be able to manage those just fine, but it's fun to play with how you combine them to make different images. Okay, so, and then we're going to, let's see, now I might do this a couple different ways. This one I'm not going to do precise. I want to have a different feel to it. And let's see, I might. So I've got two different thicknesses of marker, and I'm just going to play with that. Okay, so you can do your zigzags very tight. This actually takes a surprising amount of concentration, but that's good in a way because everything else in the world tends to disappear. Okay. You can have thick lines and a fine marker for the zigzag. Okay, so you can see here there's quite an open zigzag, a tighter zigzag, and a very tight zigzag. So that creates sort of some difference. So your eye moves around, and then here we've got bolder marker and finer marker. So there's lots of different ways to sort of vary the marks on what you're doing. And now I'm going to, fish scales. I want to do one other. Yes, and then I'll show those on the fish. You can do rounded ones, and let's do inexact to start, so loose. So these can be fish scales. You can also do them quite precise. Okay, there. So the loose version of fish scales and the more precise version of fish scales. Okay, so now you've got a whole bunch of choices for different kinds of marks that you can make. And you will play with these on the fish. So I'm choosing to do some solid shapes here as a contrast to the detailed lines that I'll put inside. And I may do 5 different variations of these fish just as an exercise, just to play with different kinds of marks and how they look together. And I'll find out what I like about them or not, and I can use those drawings as reference if I want to do other artworks. Okay. Yeah, that's good. Okay. Okay, now I think I will. There, I'll do some other horizontal lines. Okay, I'm going to go to a fine marker. Okay, good. Might do one larger row of sort of the fish scale shapes here, rounded shapes, just for variety. Okay, good. Okay, let's see. I think I'll do some lines here. Feel free to move your piece of paper so that you can do your lines less comfortably, because it's always, there's certain ways your hand moves best. Okay. All right, so got 2 fish done. And what shall I do for the third? Okay, I think I'll do cross hatching on the fins. I'm not going to do precise lines, it'll be a little wavy. So I'm not making these lines quite parallel for me, for my version. You can do what you want. Okay, all right, that's coming together. Okay. So just playing with different ways of treating the parts of the fish, the fins. Okay, I might do some tweed here, so it's a bit different, and I think I need a heavier line. Okay, good. Okay, there we go. Okay, so I'm going to do this as Tweed. Okay, good. All right, I think I'll do a row of ladder. And you'll make up your own versions of this. Okay, and then I might do some stripes. No, might do one more. Okay, I think that needs a bolder line there. Okay, so that's good. So you can see this is the first version of what I've done for my fish, and you can create your own versions using all the different line techniques or pattern techniques that we've created. Okay, I might do a different fish just for the fun of it. You can look back at the colored versions or the printed versions on your worksheet and do some variations that are yours. Okay, now let's see. I could... Let's see if I wanted to do... I'm just going to play with doing some things in different ways. Let's see. So I'm going to do the fish scales here. I think I'll use the whole fish that way. And it always surprises me how much concentration this actually takes. Very simple, but it takes concentration. And then I find the whole world goes away. Okay, let's see. Now, what would be a good contrast to that, or what would work with that? There we go. Okay. Maybe I'll do a grid. Yes. And I'll leave it somewhat irregular. I like the edges here this time. Okay, yep, that's good. Maybe I'll extend these and make them really irregular. Okay, oh, I like that. Okay. So maybe I'll do a bit of tweed, but make it quite irregular. Okay, I like that. That's working well, and need something in here. Okay, good. So you can have a look at some of the different choices I've made, and you can make your own decisions of what's right for your fish. Yeah. Okay. Let's see, what shall I do this time? Yes, let's see. Okay. What have I used before? What haven't I used? I might do ladder. How could I do ladder that's different? Maybe I'll do a different variation of a ladder. And I'm sure you'll come up with some different variations too. Yeah, okay. Take some really close stripes. Maybe I'll do some fairly tight zigzags with this fine marker, but not put lines around it and leave that. Yeah, okay, I think that's rather interesting. That's a bit too busy actually. Okay, that's good. I might color in the zigzag. So as you go, you'll find some things that you like and some things that you don't like that you've done. And remember, you can always redraw things and recreate all the ones that you like, and don't recreate all the ones that you didn't like how they turned out. And then you can do it differently. And especially with meditative drawing, it's a great idea because then your brain just quiets down to concentrate on the bits you've already done, just copying those again, but seeing them in a different context can make it rather interesting. Yeah, so we're doing this with drawing, but you can also do these sorts of textures in solid blocks on papers like we did with the chaos drawing. And you can cut these out, so you can also do this collage with this as well. Okay, so there are our different fish done in different ways. And we started with all the different textures and looked at tweed, sort of the loose version, more precise, a grid, a zigzag within lines, stripes, ladder precise, ladder looser, and then we did the fish scales loose and the fish scales tight, and we did the chaos drawing or the scribbly drawing. So all those are different graphic sort of treatments, line treatments that you can use for drawing your fish the way that you would like to do that. And you can come up with your own variations on your drawing. So I look forward to seeing what you choose to do.